Hello Eagles Nation, Vincent Focht here, and welcome to a preseason Game 3 Eagles Chat review, where here at Eagles Chat we get down right to the important news you want to hear on your birds. But before we get into this Eagles Chat, make sure you like and subscribe to the Eagles Chat YouTube channel, as long with following us on Instagram at ChatEagles, where you can find daily updates on your birds, and you can also find our Instagram in the description of this Eagles Chat video. But let's get right into this Eagles Chat, and we're first going to start off with the score. So unfortunately, the Eagles could not stay undefeated in the preseason, dropping the final game 26-3. So a lot of people will come up to me and ask me, how can you possibly find any positive things that came out of a game where the Eagles only put up 3 points on the board, giving up 26 points? But out of yesterday's preseason game, besides the score, putting that aside, there were a lot of positives that came out of yesterday's game. A lot of guys that definitely proved themselves very well yesterday. So let's not talk. Let's get right into the Eagles Chat. And we're going to first start off with the big question. Who will be the QB2 for the Eagles? As yesterday, that was the final preseason game. That concludes the preseason. So this is the big question, and this is the big decision for the Eagles coaching staff and the Eagles heads going into week 1. Who is going to be the backup to Jalen Hurts? So obviously, the two that we are talking about is Kenny Pickett and Tanner McKee. So let's start looking at their stats. We're going to first start off with Kenny Pickett, who was 6 out of 9 for 58 yards, and Tanner McKee, who was 13 out of 21 for 115 yards, and he did throw 1 interception. So let's start off first with Kenny Pickett. So after yesterday's game, what I saw from Kenny Pickett, it was definitely better from the previous 2 preseason games. Now, yes, I understand when Kenny Pickett was playing, they really didn't use him that much. I mean, you can definitely tell, use him that much in terms of throwing. I mean, you could definitely tell probably by the stats, 6 out of 9. So with that stat right there, that, shows you he didn't throw that much at all. A lot of it was running game. When Kenny Pickett was in, a lot of it was the running game, was about the offensive line, so things like that. So it was very hard to judge Kenny Pickett on his throwing yesterday, but the throws that he did make were definitely better than the previous 2 preseason games. They were a lot quicker coming out of the backfield, a lot quicker coming out of the pocket, and they were also a lot more on point for Kenny Pickett. Now, obviously, it's a lot harder to try to figure out, was he starting to come out of it or not, because he didn't really have that many throws. I mean, now looking back at the previous 2 preseason games for Kenny Pickett, I started to sound like a broken record on my previous 2 Eagles chats by constantly saying it seemed like Kenny Pickett was a step behind. But out of the small amount of throws that Kenny Pickett made yesterday, they were quick and they were on point. So 2 things that we did not see from Kenny Pickett in the past 2 preseason games. The only thing was, I kind of wish they gave him some more throwing opportunity. I understand they wanted to test out some of their younger running backs and their offensive line in terms of the run game, to test out, certain plays on the run game. I understand that. I just would kind of want to see a little more out of Kenny Pickett, especially from the throws that he did make yesterday, were a lot more on point and just a lot quicker in general. The decision-making from Pickett was just a lot quicker in general yesterday. But unfortunately, like I said, in the first half, a lot of it was run game. Probably about 85% of the first half was all run game. But now moving on to Tanner McKee. So with Tanner McKee yesterday, it was a little bit of a shaky start for him. It wasn't the best of starts for Tanner McKee. He did unfortunately fumble the football when he first started, when they first brought him into the game, and then he was a little off on his throws. But then all of a sudden, something switched on in Tanner McKee, and he put together an absolutely beautiful drive down the field where he just went into this groove where it was just they were short passes, they were short, on-point type passes. There were some incompletions, obviously, on that drive. It's going to happen, but I tell you what, when he got into a groove, he got onto a groove. He was throwing great dots over the middle as well. So Tanner McKee, once he got into a groove, looked pretty good. The only problem was at the very end of that drive, here's where his interception comes in. I have to say, this looks bad on Tanner McKee because it goes on the card saying that he threw an interception, but it was one of those situations where Tanner McKee threw the ball and it hit his receiver right in the hands. What happens? It went right up in the air, deflected, came right down in the hands of a Minnesota Vikings defender, and that pass was to receiver Nagata, which didn't have that great of a game yesterday. He did not perform quite that well with trying to catch the ball yesterday, and that obvious one at the end of the game right there to finish up that drive where Tanner McKee, again, he was just, I mean, really was in a great groove yesterday. The only unfortunate part was that throw hit Nagata right in the hands, deflected in the air, and was intercepted. So after I saw that, I said, oh, I feel so bad for him because the poor guy can't win. But no, looking off of that drive, I definitely saw a lot of positive out of Tanner McKee. That was definitely the Tanner McKee we saw the past previous 2 preseason games. And I tell you what, this kid right here, when he gets into a groove, it's very, very hard to stop him because he keeps pounding the opposing team's defense, and he can really become a very, very scary quarterback to an opposing team's defense very, very quickly. So now, here comes my opinion on this whole situation. When I put these 2 back to back, and obviously I'm in no way the one making the decision, the final decision for this. This is the decision that has to be made by the coaching staff and by the heads of the Eagles. But on my opinion on this question, who should be the QB2, Kenny Pickett or Tanner McKee? Looking at these guys back to back from the first preseason game to this last preseason game that happened yesterday, not just preseason, but even in training camp, when I put these 2 guys back to back, there are questions that I ask myself. And the guy that should be the QB2, this is the question it should be. Is the guy that you're going to put in the QB2 position, is he going to be a guy that, I mean, say something happens to Jalen Hurts in an emergency situation where Jalen Hurts gets hurt or he's out for a substantial amount of time. The guy that you're going to have in QB2, is he someone that can help carry the rhythm of this offense and can continue what if, say, Jalen Hurts gets hurt in the middle of a game? Can this guy that is going to be the QB2, is he someone that can continue the rhythm of the offense and is someone who can continue the groove of the offense? I mean, remember, Tanner McKee yesterday, there were some passes he threw that were dropped. Tanner McKee is going to be working, if something happens with Jalen Hurts, he's not going to be working with third stringers or second stringers. He's going to be working with guys like A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert. So when I look at it, the guy that is going to be the QB2 has to be someone where, in a key situation, is he going to be someone that helps carry the rhythm of the offense, or is he going to be someone that helps kill the rhythm of the offense? And when I put Kenny Pickett and Tanner McKee back to back, I just did not see enough from Kenny Pickett this preseason and training camp to say that he is the guy that should earn the QB2 spot. I understand when you first brought Kenny Pickett into the organization at the beginning of this year or this past offseason, I understand he was the guy that they were expecting to be the QB2. He was the guy that they brought in here like, okay, Kenny Pickett is going to be the guy that is going to back up Jalen Hurts. Well, I just have not seen enough out of him. I understand they paid him with this, pretty, good-sized contract. I understand all of that. I understand. But putting these 2 back-to-back, the guy that I definitely think earned it was Tanner McKee. I think that he carries the offense a heck of a lot better. I think he has a lot better of a groove. Now, I understand Kenny Pickett was starting to show some bright spots yesterday, but they were only a few throws. I'm going off of this whole preseason, and I just didn't see enough positive looks out of Kenny Pickett to definitely and positively say he can be the guy that could help carry this offense in an emergency situation and the guy that could help carry the rhythm of this Eagles offense in case something happens to Jalen Hurts. I can't say that. I don't see Kenny Pickett being that guy that can help carry this offense in an emergency situation. Now, Tanner McKee, I understand he has his flaws as well. I get that, but off of what I've seen, I mean, remember, I'm watching the same game that you guys have been watching, obviously, and I know this coaching staff and the Eagles heads, I understand they've been watching the exact same games that we've been watching as well. And from seeing the performances from both of these guys back-to-back, Tanner McKee just seems to be a guy that can help carry this offense. The rhythm is a heck of a lot better. His groove is a heck of a lot better. The quick decision-making in the pocket, his ability to tell when the pocket is starting to collapse, it's just his decision-making, his quick thinking, seems to be a lot better than Kenny Pickett. What I've seen from him all preseason, I've just seen a heck of a lot more pros from Tanner McKee than I have seen from Kenny Pickett, and that's my honest opinion. I definitely think that Tanner McKee should be your QB2 starting in Week 1 to back up Jalen Hurts. I have not seen enough out of Kenny Pickett. I'm sorry if he was starting to come out of it a bit yesterday. As we saw some bright spots from Pickett, I would have liked to see a little bit more of that, but I just didn't see enough out of Pickett to definitely have the confidence to say he should be the QB2. I think he is the best guy for the job. I'm sorry, I just did not see enough out of Kenny Pickett. So the guy I'm definitely going with is Tanner McKee to be the QB2. Again, I'm obviously not the guy to make that final decision. It's up to the coaching staff. I'm just going off of what I've seen out of the training camps, putting them both together. Kenny Pickett didn't have exactly a great training camp either. So looking at the training camp, looking at the preseason, putting these two guys back to back ever since training camp started till now at the end of the preseason, I've just seen a lot more out of Tanner McKee. And I really do think, in my full honest opinion, that he should be the guy for the QB2 backing up Jalen Hurts. But now let's go into the rest of the offense. Since we already covered QBs, let's go into some of the other offensive contributors. And we're first going to start off with a guy who didn't have a bad game yesterday. He made some mistakes. There were some mistakes here and there, but really wasn't that bad of a game for Ty Davis Price yesterday. He had 12 attempts for 56 yards. Now, yes, I understand he did fumble the ball once, turning the ball over. But, I mean, hey, this guy was all over the place. This is somebody that, is in the Eagles core that they were, looking at all through training camp as well, and somebody who, I've seen improvement from. So this is definitely someone that I think deserved to be highlighted on this Eagles chat, along with another guy, which we don't highlight too many guys like this on Eagles chat, but I definitely had to give him a lot of credit. And this guy right here being an offensive lineman, again, like I said, someone that we really, players that we don't highlight enough on Eagles chat, and that guy being Darian Kennard. Had a lot of good blocking yesterday. Had a lot of just good plays in general with helping the run game and just with the gaps, making the correct gaps, and just in general. The offensive line played a great game yesterday, but I really do have to highlight the specific guy being, obviously, again, Kennard, who blocked very well, helped the running game contribute in a lot of ways yesterday. And remember, the running back has a big piece of the run game, but if you don't got an offensive line, you don't have a running game. And I definitely think guys like Kennard he's been a guy that the Eagles have been watching a lot through training camp, a guy that's really performed very, very well in training camp, and he definitely performed very, very well yesterday. Again, like I said, he helped the run game big time, and I definitely had to give a shout out to him because in my opinion, we're going to try to do it some more, but we do not highlight offensive linemen enough on Eagles chats, and we don't give them enough credit that they deserve in general. The media, I don't think, gives them enough credit in general. So we're definitely going to highlight the whole entire offensive line, but again, in specific guys, Kennard definitely played one heck of a game. But now moving into the defense. Now, with the defense, I can't take out one specific guy. I have to highlight the linebackers in general. Out of the 4 sacks that the Eagles got, 3 of them were from their linebackers. And we're first going to start looking at some of their guys. We have, to start off, we have Oren Burks, we have Ben Van Sumeren, we have Julian Akwara, and the 1 sack that was not by a linebacker was Taron Jackson. So the Eagles had 4 sacks. Obviously, the Vikings still put up 26 points as the Vikings QB, Jaron Hall, that they had in there to start the game was absolutely beautiful. I mean, they were saying that this Vikings quarterback was the 4th string quarterback. I mean, I tell you what, Jaron Hall looked absolutely incredible yesterday. I definitely think he will be moving up the ranks for the Vikings. But to go back to the defense, the linebackers definitely did their job. They were very, very aggressive. I mean, looking at Vic Fangio's defensive design, I definitely think that the guys that they have brought in here, the linebackers that the Eagles have brought in, have been fitting in very, very well with Fangio's system. And, I mean, just look out through the whole entire preseason. The Eagles' defense have done very, very well with rushing the QB this whole entire preseason. I think Fangio has been doing an absolutely incredible job back there with the play calls. And, I mean, hey, again, this defense has been performing very well, especially on the QB rush. But now, moving on to a guy that a lot of people wanted to hear about, a lot of people wanted to see play, and this was the big pickup for the Eagles, one of the big pickups for the Eagles in the offseason, and that was Cooper DeJean. Yesterday he had a pretty shaky start, but then ended up playing pretty well. In the interviews before the game, Cooper DeJean pretty much said in those interviews, the first thing he wants to do when he goes out there is just go out there and hit somebody. And he absolutely did that. The only problem was the first guy that he hit, it was a penalty because he went off the line, or when the snap happened, he backed up and completely just absolutely hit a guy for no reason, taking him off the route. The ball was nowhere in sight, but Cooper DeJean decided to hit the guy anyway, obviously causing a penalty. The only problem was on that play, the Eagles got an interception, but that play had to be called back because DeJean absolutely just hit a guy for no reason and the ball wasn't even in the area. So, I mean, hey, he was out there. He played a good game yesterday. He had 3 tackles, and he even had a good play, which backed the Vikings up pretty well, with a great tackle in the backfield as well. So, Cooper DeJean, it was a good start. This was his first time putting on an NFL uniform. I think he played a pretty good game. Again, like I said, it was a little tiny bit shaky in the beginning, but hey, it's his first time stepping out in an NFL game day setting, and I think Cooper DeJean did just fine, and he's definitely going to be someone very, very talented for the Birds in the near future coming up, as this guy is filled with talent. Can't wait to see what he brings to the Eagles in the upcoming future. But that's all I really got to say for this preseason Game 3 Eagles Chat review. And here it is, folks. Week 1, Friday, September 6th. The Eagles and the Green Bay Packers kick off the NFL season in Brazil. So I can't believe I'm already saying it. The next game that Eagles Chat is going to be covering is going to be a regular season game. I told you back in July on an Eagles Chat, it's going to be here before you know it, and it's absolutely crazy how fast this preseason flew by, how fast training camp flew by, and before you know it, we'll be talking about playoffs. It all happens at about 100 miles an hour. I can't even keep track of it anymore. So this is the next big thing. Of course, we'll be here after the game to cover it, to give you all the highlights on your Birds, talk about all important news on your Birds, and hopefully on the next Eagles Chat, we have a 1, a dash, and an O for hopefully the Eagles start off on a big-time positive note in Brazil. But again, that's all I really got to say for this preseason Game 3 Eagles Chat review, and no one is ever going to stop me from saying this. Go Birds!